when we talk about democracy, whether it's American democracy or democracy in Europe or in South America or places where we have like a liberal democracy, what we're usually suggesting is this idea of pluralism. Um, Pluralism is, in large part, it's the ability to do or be more than one thing. And this is what I mean by this is that I am. Let's take me for example, and I'm making this up as I go, so forgive me if it doesn't work very well. I don't have kids, so no kids. Let's put that down about me. No kids that I know of. I am an educator. I'm married. I own my house. Okay, that's pretty good for now. So when it comes to discussions about, for example, education policy, the fact that I don't have kids probably says something about what my education is. The fact that I'm an educator probably says something about what education policy I'd like to see. When it comes to things like taxes, should there be a tax break for people who are married or people who own a house? The fact that I'm married and own a house puts me on one side, and the fact that maybe you are not married and don't own a house, you may want very different policies about tax policies than I do. Great. Okay, so here's the deal, is I don't like just join one group and that's it, is that I participate in politics through groups and a number of groups. And again, we've talked about these interest groups, but also just in terms of sometimes it's identity groups. Like, for example, sometimes we'll talk about, will women vote for this more likely? And again, it's not that women join some sort of female interest group or anything like that. It's just that we tend to vote in ways that are close to what we care about, what is in our interest, what our values are, and that's going to have to do with a number of things: our interests, our values, our identities, all that kind of stuff. All right. So then again, like we've said, is pluralism is this groups in competition. Now let's just do a little thought experiment first here. Does this contradict liberalism? So try to remember again, what is liberalism? I'm pausing so you can think about this. Liberalism is I get to choose my own good life. Nobody else tells me what to do. So is joining groups, is that a contradiction? And the answer is for pluralism, no. I am the one who chooses the groups I want to participate in. Even though I might be African American, doesn't mean I have to vote with African Americans. Even though I am, let's say, wealthy, doesn't mean I have to vote in a way that the wealthy would vote. So I get to choose which groups I'm in. I'm not in a group. I get to choose a group. I can join the Republican Party. I can join the Democratic Party. I can join no party. That's up to me. It's my choice, and that's very much liberalism. I choose my own good life. The importance of equality here as well is that each one of us gets to choose our own good life. Okay. Which means that each one of us gets to choose which groups that we want to be a part of. So then what is policy and politics? Politics then is the competition between groups for influence. If we happen to have more influence, then my group will get what it wants. And again, think about all the stages of the public policy. I'll get my issue that I care about on the agenda. If, for example, more college students got together and worked as a group, free college or low college tuition, whatever that might be a higher priority in terms of public policy, things like that. And policy then is the outcome of this competition. So politics is this competition, and the policy then is the outcome of this competition. And honestly, it's not, we talked about this before, that it's not that any one group will win straight out and everything's great. It's often going to be a compromise between the groups that have the most influence. So public policy is usually not going to really please anyone, but the idea here being that it pleases the most of us most of the time, I guess is the way to think about that. This usually requires a balance. That balance word is going to be important. A balance of many different viewpoints is compromise. Now, here's the question. What if there isn't a balance? We're going to see a little bit later this concept called populism. We're going to see a little video about that. And populism essentially is this idea that some groups are louder than others. And does that imbalance the system? Does that create some problems? Another term is hyperpluralism. Hyperpluralism, I can't even say it. Hyperpluralism is where some groups are louder than the others, and that throws this balance off in a way that it's not just a real competition between groups, it's an imbalanced competition, I guess is the way to say that. Another thing to think about here is, does money screw this all up? In other words, I have a voice, you have a voice. Bill Gates has a voice. Does he have a louder voice because he has money? The answer is almost certainly yes. Does a corporation have a louder voice because it has money? So how does money kind of screw this system up? And some might even argue that money screws it up so badly that it's really not pluralism at all. It's just capitalism in politics. But we'll just leave that alone for now. Those are just things to think about. Let's talk about what it's not very quickly here. What pluralism is not. Pluralism is not what we talked about the other day. It's not totalitarianism. It really does. Remember, totalitarianism is this idea that there aren't limits on government because the people are so mobilized. They're out there demanding the government to do something about this stuff. And pluralism really says competition between groups is a good thing. Totalitarianism gets rid of competition between groups. It essentially says this one group is the only group that matters. Everybody else needs to be eliminated or silenced. That's not pluralism. Pluralism doesn't think other groups need to be silenced. Pluralism says the best policy is going to come when everybody is out there talking about these things and nobody's voice is silenced. Common good then can be found only through group competition. That is definitely not totalitarianism. The other thing pluralism is not is something we're going to talk about here in a second. That's elitism. Elitism says the ruling class is the one that makes these decisions. With pluralism, they're going to say the ruling class, they definitely have a say in things. They have a voice. They're a group. But they're only one group among many. They are not the only voice out there. The ruling class's main job is not to come up with policy. The ruling class's main job should be to implement policy. Once we figure out what we want, the ruling class then makes it happen. That's going to be a pluralist theory about this. Now, you're going to see a video here from a guy named Richard Dawkins who's going to have a little bit of a problem with pluralism. He's going to say, look, people are kind of stupid. And even if they're not stupid, they're just not experts on things. Don't we want experts to basically run the show? So watch this video, and then we'll come back and talk about elitism. I can't stop the video. It's going to stop, trust me. I just don't know how to do this right now.